We will now do the last paragraph of this kirtan. Jo Piya Ruchi, Piya Ruchi, Maha Ruchi Rakhey, Prem Rasa Soi Chakhe
Jo Piya Ruchi, Maharuchi Rakhey, Prem Rasa Soi Chakhe
Jo Piya Ruchi, Maharuchi Rakhey, Prem Rasa Soi Chakhe
Jo Piya Ruchi, Maharuchi Rakhey, Prem Rasa Soi Chakhe
Jehi Hari Hari Jan hi bhave re Kahu anatan tuk man bhave re
Jehi Hari Hari Jan hi bhave re Kahu anat natuk man lave re.
There's one devotion that we are all doing, and there is another devotion which is the divine power of God. It's His ultimate and highest power. And these descended saints have that divine devotion in their hearts. So it's like an ocean of love. And they also have the capacity to suppress it inside so that nobody may come to know in the outside. However, when they get the environment of their worshipable God, Radha Krishna, the names, the kirtans, the darshan of their Ishtadev, their worshipable form of God, the love in their heart starts swelling. And it becomes so turbulent, so much that sometimes it manifests outside. Just like there is steam in the pressure cooker, but the valve on top keeps it inside. And when the pressure exceeds a certain limit, the steam comes out. So similarly, these great saints, occasionally this love manifests, and it manifests in these 8 symptoms. Stambha, to become stationary, fixed in that complete remembrance, because the mind is totally absorbed. So the body is absolutely fixed in samadhi. Swed, the body starts sweating, not because of the heat, but because of the internal love. Romanch, the hair stand on a end. Swarabhed, the throat gets choked. Vepatuhu, the body starts trembling. Vaivarnya, the face becomes ashen white. Ashru, tears stream down the eyes. Pralaya, that devotee faints and falls unconscious. So when we see these symptoms, although we cannot see the love in the heart of that saint, the external symptoms are manifesting, on the basis of which we can educatedly guess that there is an ocean of love in the heart of this saint. So these symptoms also manifest to a small extent in sadhaks, aspirants, because their capacity to control is less. But in the great saints, they have it to such an intense amount that if it ever manifests also, the manifestation is so intense. That's what you are seeing Kripaluji Maharaj in this state. If some of you have read the lives of saints, if you have read the life of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you will find that in the last 12 years of his life, he would just reside in Gambhira in Puri, not meet anyone, and just relish that internal love for Radha Krishna. If you have read the life history of Ram Krishna Paramahans, in his worship of Mother Kali, he would reach this state. The body would start trembling, he would faint unconscious, etc. So Kripaluji Maharaj, from his youth, he used to manifest these symptoms to a tremendous extent. For an hour at a time, he would just be dancing with complete forgetfulness of the body. Slowly, slowly, he has been reducing it. And even now, occasionally, they manifest. But not, he doesn't start dancing, but nevertheless, we can see he's gone into that state. Now, that bliss of divine love, or at least shades of it, we can get by the Guru's grace if we follow the proper procedure and understanding the different things to do and not to do. We have now come to the last paragraph of this keertan, which is, in boxing there is a knockout punch. There is nothing beyond that. So this keertan is like a knockout punch. Now he is telling us, there was a question in yesterday's session, how to purify the mind. Now he's addressing that question. Sri Aurobindo had said, you must keep the temple of the heart clean if you wish to install therein the living presence. If you wish to bring God to your heart, you need to cleanse the heart. And the fact is, we are what our mind is. It is said in Hindi, bhool na jana is nuske ko, लाभ अनेक उठाओगे, जैसा मन को बना सकोगे वैसे ही बन जाओगे. Whatever you can make of your mind, that is what you will become. Although you are not the mind, you are the eternal soul, but you are conditioned by the mind that you possess. So if the mind is attached to tamogun, rajogun, then we are like that. And if we can elevate the mind, we get elevated. So really, the goal of our human life is to elevate the mind to that point, that it's receptacle to receive divine love. We all do various sevas, but We should not get too carried away that I am doing this, I am doing that. I heard something very interesting once from Kripaluji Maharaj. He said, the biggest seva, the biggest service you can do to the Guru is to purify your own mind. The Guru is interested in this seva, that you purify your own mind. Everything else is a helper, but the goal is to get there. In India, Maharajji, like any guru, has various ways of engaging people in seva. So he's got some people whom he has designated as collectors. They keep going around in industrial houses and business places and meeting people, telling them about the free hospital, free college, and collecting donations. So one girl who had been doing this, it's a very purifying service, makes us humble. So she was telling me her experience. She was saying that once we went to 20 places in a line and they all kept refusing. So I got so dejected. I rang up Maharajji and said, Maharajji, I've been to 20 places at a stretch, they've all refused. And Maharajji started laughing. Ha 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 ha. Now she thought, if he is happy, why should I feel sad? If he is enjoying and having such a great time, then there is no reason for me to be unhappy. Then she thought about it a little deeper and said, why is he happy? Because the Guru's desire is that the disciple's heart gets cleansed. So if people are respecting me, giving me the donations, the heart is not getting cleansed. Only the balance is increasing. But if people are abusing me and shooing me away, my tolerance, my humility is increasing. So the Guru's work is being done when people are behaving adversely with me, not positively with me. So that is why he is so happy. In other words, our seva is to purify our mind. So now, how to purify the mind is the big question. And everybody in the world is grappling with this. People are coming out with all their various theories. Recently there was a book called The Secret by Rhonda Bryan. And you've got many other coaches in USA, Tony Robbins and Wayne Dyer, etc. There's so many of them. They're telling you how to remove the black marks in the brain and the mind. In other words, to help correct some defects. However, we do not need to take recourse to these mental speculations of certain people, because we have been given the best and most powerful process for purifying the mind, for elevating the mind, for bringing about the best, the final and the supreme self-transformation. And that process is, you take the mind to God. That is in fact the only way the mind will become truly pure. Tulsidas says, Prema bhagati jal binu raghurai abhiyantar mal kabahu na jai. He says, until you wash your mind in the water of prem bhakti, devotion to God, the dirt in the mind will not go away. So the process we have is to take the mind to God, or to bring God to the mind. So simple. As the attachment increases in this side, it decreases on the other side. If the mind has got 20% attached to God, it has become 20% detached from the world. That is natural detachment, stable detachment. Now, with 20% detachment that you possess, because of your 20% attachment to God, if there is a 20% cause for agitation, anger, panic, fear, you will experience none of these, because the mind has become so much detached. We increase our attachment to God, it increases the detachment from the world. We are 50% attached, then we are 50% detached from the world. Now our spiritual power has increased to 50%. And 50% we have got natural success against all these problems of the mind. And the day the mind is 100% attached, it is 100% detached. And now all these problems will go away automatically. So, for the mind to feel attachment, fear, tension, anxiety is natural. Don't ever be surprised. Why did this thought come to my mind? Because the mind is material. And the nature of the material mind is to go towards the material world. Kripaluji Maharaj says, Man maya tehi banyo, maya te sansara, ya te man bhavat sada, yah sansar asar. The mind is made of maya, the world is made of maya. So the mind will naturally go towards the world without any effort. To take it towards God, you will require effort. And the mind is like a subtle machine that is continuously creating thoughts. So the mind is creating all kinds of thoughts. That is its job. Our job is not to be astonished. Why did the mind create this kind of thought now? No, we don't chase those thoughts because we are not the mind. However, we learn to slowly tame this mind and bring it under our control. So, because this Maya, material energy, is the power of God, Maya is as powerful as God. He is the source. If somebody defeats Maya, it means that person has defeated God. Nobody can defeat God, and nobody can defeat Maya. And similarly, nobody, absolutely no yogi, muni, rishi can conquer their mind by their own effort. Because if they have conquered their mind, it means they have conquered Maya, which is impossible. So it requires the grace of God. And that grace is received when we attach the mind to God. So Kripaluji Maharaj out here is mentioning that the devotee keeps God and Guru in the heart and nobody else. This is called Ananya Bhakti. Now you wish to purify your mind? Take your mind to the all pure. The simple principle is, wherever we attach the mind, we will get those results. Just like you have a train, wherever the engine goes, all the bogies follow. Or the other example is given that a father had 3 daughters. He married one daughter to a businessman. That businessman became a billionaire, a big Sethji. So that daughter got the title of Sethani ji. The other daughter was married to a drunkard. The drunkard blew up all his wealth and became a beggar, a bhikhari. So that daughter got the title of Bhikharin. And the third daughter was married to a high school pass. He became a clerk somewhere, a babu. So his wife became Babuine. Now one father has got these 3 daughters. They've all got 3 different titles. The title was received depending on the person they married. So it's like the daughter is our mind. Wherever we marry this mind, we will get those results. Yanti devavratevan pitrin yanti pitrivrata bhutani yanti bhutejya yanti madhyajino pimam. Sri Krishna says, if you engage the mind in the celestial gods, after death you will go to their abodes. If you engage the mind in the deceased ancestors, after death you will go to them. If you engage the mind in loving worldly personalities, after death you will attain them. And Arjun, if you attach your mind to me, after death you will come to me. So our goal is to take our mind there. That is bhakti. However, the condition being emphasized here is ananya bhakti. Now this condition of ananyata is very important. What is ananyata? Anybody? Ananyata? Na, that's right. Na anya. Ananya. No other. That is ananya. Na uchit, anuchit. Na ek, anek. So our mind should be attached to God alone. Now supposing we love God and we also love the rasgulla, the jalebi, and not to forget the samosa. Then, by taking the mind to God, we are purifying it. And by taking the mind to the samosa, we are dirtying it. So on one side, we start cleansing the mind. On the other side, we start dirtying the mind. This will not work. Chutahi mala ki malahi ke dhoye Ghrita ki pav ko vari viloye. Supposing you have a cloth, you wish to cleanse it. From one side you keep throwing soap water, from the other side you keep throwing dirt. We do that kind of washing for many years. The cloth will remain just the same, because the extent to which it got cleansed, to the same extent it got dirtied. So, similarly, our heart must not melt for the world. It must melt for God and Guru. But for the world, it should be hard. That is the problem. There are people who are soft-hearted. They cry for God, they also cry for the world. There are people who are hard-hearted. They don't cry for God, they don't cry for the world, but then they also don't cry for God. So we have to keep the reverse principles in the reverse areas. Towards God and Guru, be totally soft-hearted. Towards the world, be hard-hearted. Nobody here is mine. We have to do our duties as we live in this world. Just like a nurse does her duty in the hospital. She's got the most compassionate kind of work that requires tremendous kindness and sensitivity. However, even while doing it, the nurse is totally detached. The person may live, the person may die, doesn't matter. I just had to do my duty. So we also must in the same way do our duty, but not let the heart melt. If the heart melts, that worldly personality will come in. So, just like there is sealing wax. Now the sealing wax, nowadays they have stopped using it. Talking about many years ago, there used to be a red sealing wax. When you made a parcel in India, then it used to be sealed with the sealing wax. So that wax, when you melt it, it would become so thin that you could strain it through the finest of clothes. And then in that, the red color would be released. And that color would pervade every molecule of it. And once it was cooled down, there was no way you could remove that color from the wax. They had become one. Similarly, wherever our heart melts, that object, that personality will then get embedded in the heart. So somebody who wants to taste divine love needs to be careful, not only to melt the heart for God, but to ensure it doesn't melt for the world. And this is where we usually make the mistake. We people have engaged in devotion for many lifetimes. That is a fact. The fact that we have made it here in such an environment, such a place, to such an elevated philosophy is an indication that we have done devotion for many past lifetimes. You know that book by, what's the name of the author?
Brian Weiss.
Yeah, Brian Weiss. Yeah, he traces back to the Egyptian civilization. So, we have engaged in devotion, but we never paid heed to this clause, ananyata. So we allowed the heart to melt in the world. we allowed worldly things to come into the heart, and that dirtied it. If you are earning $1,000 every day, but your spending is $1,500 every day, so you are going into minus. So the earning may be less, but if the expenditure is not there, then we'll keep on adding. Similarly, we need to consolidate our sadhana by ensuring that the minus does not take place. And the way of the minus is when we take the mind to the world, it becomes dirty.